Islam, about religion? How does it relate to it? Well, you've probably been asked this question yourself. They say, you're Muslim, right? I say, yes. Explain me to something. Why do you have a problem with people having relations outside marriage if they consent to it? And I mean, they might say, what's your problem with people of the same sex having relations outside marriage? But generally speaking, they could argue more broadly, anyone having relations outside marriage, right? Why is that wrong? If they consent, they own their body, they consent to it, so it's not harming each other, harm being violating someone's body without their consent, so there's no problem. So why is that wrong? And many Muslims don't know how to argue. They say, oh, it causes STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, it doesn't have a responsibility if there's kids. And they say this, and then they might say, well, look, there are people who, you might find people out there who don't have STDs, and they check themselves before engaging in a relationship, and they intend to stay with each other for the rest of their lives. So what's wrong with that then? Then it becomes a bit difficult to respond, because you're trying to argue that it's not beneficial for individuals to do it. But by arguing it's not beneficial, firstly, it's not only is that not the reason why it's prohibited in Islam, but also is that, well, not beneficial in this life, if you from that perspective. But also, you're actually kind of agreeing with the individualist, the Aqidah, because you're saying that, okay, it's what you're saying, you got a point, but the reason why we don't like it is because it causes harms to individuals' bodies, or it causes people to be not getting pleasure, which is part of the Aqidah of individualism, right? Harm to people's bodies, as in STDs. Sexually transmitted disease is a harm, right, to a body. So, and making people sad because you're not showing responsibility or looking after the kids, that's considered to be against the pursuit of happiness. So you're actually arguing within the Aqidah. It's like, just so you understand what I'm saying by this, it's like, imagine you were in the time of the Quraysh before Medina, before Yathrib became Medina. So at the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and the Quraysh were coming to you and saying, like, why do you Muslims, you were complaining to the Quraysh saying, why are you persecuting the Muslims? And the Quraysh were saying, well, what's wrong with persecuting Muslims? And you say, oh, well, Hubal wouldn't be happy with you for doing this. It's like, well, you don't believe in Hubal. Why are you using that as a basis to argue for your rights? You say, Hubal gives us our right to be Muslim. The Quraysh would be amused by it because you don't believe in Hubal. So why are you using that as your Aqidah to argue for your rights in this? That's not how Muslims should argue. And that's going to give Muslims doubts. Why does Allah prohibit this then? Why does Allah prohibit people from making consensual choices then? It's a tough one. I mean, it's not the toughest of all. I've got other ones, but that's just to start off, right? Well, here's an argument. Here is the real response. Okay, you say it's wrong to do something to a body without the consent of the owner of the body, right? They say, yeah. I think some of you might see where I'm going with this. Who owns your body? Who owns the heavens and the earth and every single atom in it? Who owns it? Who owns everything? Allah owns it. And has the owner of the body given consent for you to use his property that he made, and he's constantly sustaining it? If he stopped sustaining you, you'd pop out of existence. Right? You know the idea of amana? Like if someone gives you something as a trust, you can't misuse it. Right? So Allah hasn't given you ownership of the body, He's given you control of the body. Like a rental car, as an amana. So has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given you the consent to misuse His property, to have in relations outside of marriage? Or relations outside of marriage, full stop. Whether it's same sex or other sex, just full stop, relations outside of marriage. and they say, and then they won't know what to say to you, the individualists, because if they don't believe in God, that's fine, but they can't say you don't have a basis for this. And as a Muslim, this